Let's bring back senior political analyst Brit Hume. Brit, these responses are always really unenviable because they usually, you can never match the pomp and circumstance, the grandeur of the House chamber. Your thoughts on this and back to the big speech.
Well, it certainly was a contrast in the message between the president's optimistic report on the state of America and the quite grim picture that Stacey Abrams painted of where Americans are and how they're living. You would think we were in the depths of the recession, the way she struck it. You'd think from what she seemed to be saying about race that it was 1963 and so on. I found her a person with a lot of presence, and she certainly speaks very ably and well. I just wonder how her message will resonate with people out there living with record low unemployment, even among a number of minority groups where unemployment tends to stay high. So I think it was a nice try, but I have my doubts about how effective it was. All
right, Britt, thank you. As always, back with the panel. Chris.
It's a low mark because, as you say, these responses, both by Republicans and Democrats, are notoriously unsuccessful. I thought this was a pretty good one. And yes, while the macro numbers are pretty good, there are a lot of Americans who are struggling. And I thought she seemed to get more to what people's lives are like in the reality. Also, she talked about some subjects like education, which the president didn't talk about at all, or climate change, which the president didn't talk about at all. In terms of the president, as I say, I think it was a pretty effective speech politically and an opening salvo for 2020 after a 35-day shutdown. He talked about compromise and reaching across the aisle. He reached out to women. He got clobbered among suburban women in the midterm elections. And I think he appealed to his base on the wall, on right to life and abortion, and also on socialism. I don't see a lot of wiggle room. I know there's some issues that they may agree on, but on the specifics of those issues, like infrastructure, the Republicans and Democrats are miles apart. I don't see a lot of legislating coming out of this.
Laura, hearing that the president may continue this speech by going to the border in the coming days, not sure exactly on the timing on that yet, but how does he continue what he started tonight to build on?
I think one thing I remember from the Reagan years, after the State of the Union, the cabinet was dispatched. I mean, I was like a 22, 23-year-old speechwriter in domestic policy, and you would see them fan out after the State of the Union. So I would say people like Ben Carson, Rick Perry, who was a designated survivor tonight, but all the members of the cabinet, in their own way, have something to amplify from this message tonight. And that, if I could say there's a failing in the communications of the White House not to utilize some of these, there were some pretty powerful people in the cabinet. And Bob Lighthizer busy on China trade. Mnuchin's, obviously, he's busy. Nielsen's busy. But we got other people we don't hear a lot from. So that's one they can do it. I got to say, Stacey Abrams, I think she did have presence tonight. I think she much better than some of the people in the last few years.
Think about the past.
Oh my gosh,
Marco Rubio.
In last year with the sweating face, that was a tough deal. So it's never easy to do these speeches, but. Look, I think she's kind of presenting an alternative universe to what really is going on. Blue-collar wages, as the Washington Post had to report in September, finally blue-collar wages are going up. The middle class is feeling it. So, but she did the best I think she could with this economy that's booming by all counts.
Dana, I was trying to think of the president's speech, of key speeches he's delivered. I think Poland, Saudi Arabia, big moments. Mm-hmm. I think it seemed like he was the most comfortable. This speech was the most well-delivered. So State of the Unions are tough. But this one really landed, didn't it?
And this is his second one. And remember, also, he knows a lot of the people in the room now. They've this disruptor has come in. People are a little bit more used to him now and the disruptor. And he so effectively used the guests in the gallery. He also had a little bit of humor. There was a moment they sang happy birthday. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that. I do think it is remarkable that I think it's the first time in history a president of the United States had to stand on the floor of the House and say, we will never be a socialist country. And I think we should take that very seriously, and follow through is very important, getting the cabinet out. Azar has a lot to do on prescription drugs, etc.
Quickly, Juan.
Well, I think one of the measures in my mind is, does it move the needle? Remember when we talked about his presentation in the Oval Office on the immigration, the need for the wall, it really didn't move public opinion very much. It didn't raise, especially from his perspective, support that he had hoped. I think tonight, when I create a checklist in my mind, I think about immigration. Do I think that this persuaded anybody on the immigration issue or the wall? I don't. Do I think it persuaded anybody on abortion? I definitely think not. In fact, I think it may have alienated some. When I think of him saying this was a partisan investigation by Robert Mueller, again, I think, people think this is the Trump we know. To my mind, it was a real appeal to reach across the divide. And I also saw that, by the way, interestingly, from the other side, from Stacey Abrams.
Juan, thank you. Panel, thank you.
Final thoughts when we come back.